legacy built on broken dreams. But Nora's here, tearing apart at the seams. Raised in the code, found truth on the screen. Therapy sessions where the pain's unseen. Healing from the past with stories that sting. Oh no, Nora, let that freedom ring.
Hey everybody, we are back live in the garage. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to our final episode here on Raised in Scientology with me, Nora. We're talking about Narconon today, which is one of Scientology's most successful front groups. And I did take a little bit of time. Thank you all for waiting. Thank you for coming from the last stream. I appreciate you. Today, to talk about Narconon and their lived experience in there a bit is my mom. Please welcome my mom, Kathy Thomas, who at the time, years ago, I'll get the number of years from her. I can't remember. Time is irrelevant. Was the senior case supervisor for the entire Narconon network. So we're going to do a tiny little deep dive with my mama, who is live with us from her beautiful house in Southern California. Please welcome a big, huge Raised in Scientology welcome for my mom, Kathy. Hi, Mama. I'm going to give you some applause here. Okay.
Hi, Nora. You're crazy.
If Dad had one of these things, Mom, if Daddy had like a machine that could just like have played applause for him all the time, it would have just been like, hey.
He would have enjoyed that. Yes.
Oh my God. I think you would have thrown it out the window. Let's be honest.
Oh, no. He would have wanted to hear it all the time.
He would have. No, I'm saying you would have thrown it out the window. He would have played it all the time.
You're right.
Okay. So guys, save questions for later. I will field questions. My mom has a brief moment in time here to be with us. She's a very busy lady. And, but she's graciously agreed to put up with my shenanigans here for a little bit of time. So first of all, my mom, somebody in the chat says, Mom, hi, Kathy, do you feel all the love from the chat? Seriously, it's all like, we love Nora's mom. We love when she's on. They are all loving you, Mom. So I know that's weird for you. You don't like, why would people on the internet love you? They do. They absolutely adore you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Very nice.
Okay. So we're diving into Narconon today. I did tell them, like, we went over the history of Narconon, but you and I were having a very interesting conversation just a moment ago that I want to kind of like go back to the beginning of, okay? Which was about the beginning of Narconon itself. So if you want, what we were talking about earlier, you go ahead and tell me like what happened at the beginning and then where did it change?
Okay. Well, it started in a jail. And it was started by a man named Willie Benitez, who was in jail with other people who were incarcerated. And I'm not sure how he discovered TRs, how he learned about them, but he decided that was going to be the way to stop, to be able to bring a person out of wanting to take drugs. Now, and the only people that were interested were he had been a heroin addict, and the other people who joined the program all had been heroin addicts. That was it. That was their drug, heroin. And so they all did not want to take it anymore. So he said he had an idea, and they thought, well, okay. So they all joined, and they all agreed that they were going to do the program. They weren't going to take drugs, which, by the way, they could very easily get while in jail.
People think that there's like, they're not having all this stuff. They have everything.
Yeah. And I want to stay on topic here. Anyway, so.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be good. Keep going.
Be good, Nora.
I'm trying.
Okay. So anyway, they formed a group, but he was in charge of the group, and he demonstrated TRs. Everybody did TRs. I don't believe this initial group had like a little TR book. They did. So he just demonstrated the TRs and they got it and they did it.
Okay.
And he had one book, which, to be honest, it seemed to me to
According
be
to
an
the
odd.
records, it was Fundamentals of Thought, because they ran some processes from that. Like, look around here and tell me something you could have. You know, the
Well, they
basics.
did not do that initially.
Mm.
So that's why I'm thinking it really, I think that may be wrong.
But the
It
other
was
principles in the
more,
book would go along with, like, you being in control of your spirit. You're a
yeah,
spirit, you're
but
not a body, and things like that.
it's true. But that's in a lot of the basic books,
Correct.
those fundamentals. So anyway, they had a book, but they only had one copy. So they took chapters out, and then everyone could study a chapter. Anyway, it doesn't matter what book it was. That's really, that was just more inspiration as opposed to the program that they were doing, which was the TRs.
Right.
And every single one of those guys who continued the program never took heroin again. Every single one of them. And that was
when it was being run by Willie in the jail, just to be clear.
correct.
Yeah.
Neither Willie or any of the other guys ever took heroin again. And the thing was, every single one of them was part of it because they chose to be. They had to actually, like, I don't know if petition is the right word, but they had to do some form of writing to the jail to get permission to be part of the group. So they had to not apply to the group, but apply so that they were allowed to go with these other guys.
Right.
For this purpose.
Yeah.
All right. So every one of those guys was successful. And the primary reason from my perspective of that is nobody ever stops taking drugs. I don't care what program they did or how great their intentions are, unless they really honestly want to stop.
Correct.
You want to stop taking drugs. There are people who shouldn't stop, like, okay, I'm going to throw everything away at this second, and I'm not going to. Some, especially now, with certain drugs, because
or alcohol as an example of something you could die from.
Precisely, you don't want to die.
No.
So you don't want to do something extreme.
Right.
You've already done that, or you are doing that. You know,
with the
possibly.
drugs. Yes.
Yes. Yes. So the thing is that people really need someone who can help them at least, like, get off the drugs and legally. Like, you know, you don't want to call up somebody that you know that used to take drugs and say, okay, I want to do this. What should I do?
Right.
That's not your best plan, because they can only tell you what they know personally.
Right. And full disclosure for the audience at large here, neither myself or my mother are trained licensed medical people. We are not doctors. Right. We're not giving any medical advice here whatsoever. And also, I mean, I grew up in a cult. My mom was in the cult for 50 years. So we are
I was not in it for 50 years, Mom?
How many?
42.
42 years. I take that back. Correct. You left when I was 42. Or like I was 40. I exaggerated, guys. My mom was in the cult for 42 years. Yes. You know, so we're talking about our lived experience in regards to this. So just like in a previous stream, Mom, I showed people like an actual website for a legitimate drug rehabilitation program, and in there they talked very exclusively about their medical detox and like who's supervising it and how it's done. And you know, obviously, if there is anybody, if any of you are watching and you are struggling with any form of addiction, please seek out proper medical help on that. Please do not ever, I don't care what the drug is, do not just suddenly stop taking something without medical advice or supervision from your primary care or whomever. That's super, super important, because it can be dangerous to do that. But so that was the original program though, Mom. So then how did things change? What happened?
Well, what happened was Willie Benitez wrote a letter to Ron Hubbard, L. Ron Hubbard, and Hubbard was very excited about that. You know, here's some guy is using my stuff, and
Right.
he was asking permission. You know, is it okay if I keep doing this? And Ron told him yes, and it was Willie that came up with the word Narconon,
Right.
which means narcotics none. That's why it's narco non.
There you go, guys. Narcotics none.
That's what it means. So anyway, and also I used to have this letter in my office, where the letter that Ron wrote to Willie, a copy of it, not the letter, and you know, where he says that, you know, absolutely anything that Narconon wants, you can use. Okay, any piece of tech that you need, you know, feel free.
And how did it like officially become part of the Scientology zeitgeist? Like, how did that happen?
Well, that happened in the 70s, through, well, when the Guardian's office was still the Guardian's office, and I'm trying to think of the name of the bureau.
Would it be like the equivalent of like Division 6, like the Public Bureau or whatever?
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Oh, okay.
But any group that, which wasn't Scientology, that wanted to use something from Scientology, they were in charge of it. Okay. I should remember, because
right, and
when
so
I worked
now
at the USGO, they were right down the hall from me, and I don't remember.
Well, Mom, you were in Bureau 2. You were busy with other things.
No, I was in
B1. You were in Bureau 1. You were busy taking care of me in my crib. It was in the office.
Well, no. You and your crib, that was when I went back to San Francisco, Nora.
Oh, right. Yeah. But you know, you guys, I mean, even the Guardian's office was completely compartmentalized. It wasn't like you were discussing all the things that were happening. But yeah, so Scientology, it kind of like got folded into, they folded in the cheese, as we would say from Schitt's Creek, folded in, David.
Right.
That got folded into Scientology. Right. And it became like a prominent, starting in the 70s, Scientology front group, because it's like, now we're the solution for drugs. And the first center was opened, the first jail center was opened in Los Angeles, correct? Like 1978-ish, something like that.
Oh, no. It was earlier than that. I don't know the exact
72 year. I think, or something. It was early, somewhere in the 70s. It
might have been 71 or 72, somewhere in there. Yeah, that was Narconon LA. Right. And there were other Narconons in LA. Like there was the Celebrity Narconon, and there was, I don't know, some other Narconon. And those didn't last. Of course, Celebrity Narconon sort of lasted, but it was under wraps. You know, it was never an official thing.
No, because
the people involved didn't want anybody knowing that they had that problem.
No, you can't. Like a big, you know, if John Travolta showed up high AF, they're not going to be like,
he didn't. Guess what?
I know he never did. I'm not trying to start a rumor. He is
very
clean.
That. I don't.
No. But you know, like if somebody like him, who was a prominent celebrity in the 70s, had shown up, and then they put him through the Narconon, they're not gonna advertise John Travolta did Narconon. You know,
right?
Like that's not. Yeah. Because it was secret. It was a secret. So then, okay, so you didn't work for Narconon when it first started. So then, you know, you were in the Guardian's office. Okay. And then I was born, and then your contract was up in 78-ish. Was it 78 or 79? Yeah, 78.
1977. The end of October 1977.
There we go. I was going to say late 77. So I was a year and a half old. I was 18 months old. And then you said, no, thank you very much. I'm not signing another contract. And you left.
No, I said that way before, which is why I got to leave.
And who sec-checked you, Mom? Your bestie. Which is hilarious.
She didn't sec-check.
I thought Margot did. No?
No.
Oh, I have that story wrong. Who It was somebody totally
It
else
was
that I don't
three
even know.
different people that you don't know.
See,
Because
three
nothing
different
came
people.
up in my. I
Right,
had
nothing was coming up. You didn't have crimes.
No, nothing they didn't already know.
Right, but
and
they were literally trying to make you stay with like finding crimes, making you do lower conditions.
Usual, we're going to give you a sec check so we can get material that you can be blackmailed with. There wasn't anything.
No,
I was too busy working. What the hell crimes could I have?
Other than the GO's crimes, but I mean, like that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story.
Well,
for another time.
That's another
lifetime. So then we moved to Lodi, where my sister was born, in Lodi. That's where my grandparents live. So my dad's parents, we lived next to them, and then we floated around. You and Daddy got divorced, and then we're living in the city, and then years later, you and I twinned on some stuff. We did the student hat and M1 together. So much fun. Back in the San Francisco org. So many fun adventures. No paper, Mom. No paper. On the bus. That is an inside joke to this day. Guys, we got on the bus in San Francisco, the Muni bus, to go from our apartment we were staying at with my grandfather to the San Francisco org. So we had to take like a couple buses. And we walk on, and my mom, this is before they had the dollar bill machines. My mom tries to hand the guy a $5 bill, and the bus driver just looks at us and he's like, no paper. We're like, what? No paper. We're just like, but we got right there, and he just started going. We were on the bus, and he just started going, and we hadn't paid him, and he's like, no paper. And we're like, what are we gonna do? And somebody came up and just put change in for us. Like,
that's not what happened, Nora.
Did he kick
us off?
We got
off at the next stop.
Where did you do?
I had to go and get change. I had to break my money.
See, the way I remembered it was totally different. Yeah, no paper. So that's something that we say to each other every once in a while when things are just like, you can't do that. No paper. Anyway, so then we did that. And then I graduated high school. It's like a whole bunch of stuff happened eventually. We moved.
Wow, this is really the short version.
We're doing the short version, Mom. I mean, a lot of stuff. I tested to clear, all this stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so then I graduate high school. I moved to LA to, start working at the Fakakta school, right? And then Daddy decides to die. Fun. I joined the Sea Org before that, and you came down to start your St. Hill Special Briefing course. You enrolled on the St. Hill Special Briefing course.
Well, that's not why I came down.
No, you came down to get auditing for Daddy because he owed you $35,000 back child support, and then he died the day before you were
$25,000.
$25,000. And he died the day before she was coming down to receive auditing from my father that was going to pay her back. Okay, this is typical. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, wherever you are.
No, I just figured, he just didn't want to see me. I really don't think he was like,
I can't stand that woman so much, I'm dying. I don't think it was that. I think it was the cappuccinos, the cigarettes, and the fat on his arteries that he had never addressed. Well, so,
Well, the fact that he never went to a doctor and predicted that he would die in the manner in which he did die.
His father passed at 45 of a mass coronary, and that's what he did. So, good job.
He got his wish.
Achievement unlocked for Dad. He really did. And then, because now you couldn't go in session, you decided you were going to, and this was a dream that you had when you had, first gotten into Scientology and found out about the briefing course of,
but what happened, Nora, was I was already taking courses at AFI, and I wanted to.
Oh, at the American Film Institute.
Yeah. And then.
You wanted to get back into screenwriting.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to do that, but I wanted to be able to get a job in movie making. And
in the industry,
Yeah. So I was taking classes there. Anyway, what happened was,
well, what first happened is you had a terrible reg cycle with Dave Pettit, who tried to convince you.
No. I had a reg cycle prior to that. The whole reason I was with Janet Mindsma.
Oh, right. Who is a registrar At the San Francisco org.
In San Francisco. And
Right.
because she I forget how she called me or why, but anyway, she called me and she wanted to know what was
She
up.
found out you were
And
about to spend a boatload of cash and she wanted that commission.
yes, she did. But no, when she first called me though, before this was happening, she heard that I was going to go online at CCN.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, why are you training to become a class 5 when you could do the briefing course for less money? And I said, what are you talking about? So she explained it all to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, now I can't rent
There was a
you for the
special,
briefing
guys. It was a
course.
Kmart blue light special on the
It
briefing course
was.
at that time. This
It
is for
was.
real. It was like 30% off of the briefing course, which has how many levels, Mom? It goes level A through what? P or something?
P.
So you do levels A through P, guys. That's how many levels there are in the St. Hill Special Briefing course. And that involves reading every technical bulletin that L. Ron ever wrote in the order that he wrote it in, listening to every technical lecture he ever gave in the order he gave them in. It's a chronological study of Scientology technology. At the end of that, you are considered is it the Duke of the Auditor Elite? When you become a class 6, you're a Duke. You've been duped. Of the Auditor Elite. And it's a grueling course. People take a decade, guys, to get this course done. This is not for the faint of heart. These are the most dedicated Scientologists who do this course, because most people now see the thing that was bad at this time is that I found out that my mom wanted to do training. So then everybody was like, well, she needs to come here, because I was working where? At Celebrity Center. So I stupidly, because I'm impulsive, told Dave Pettit, yes, I'm going to sell my mom on her class 5 package. Of course I am. Of course, this would be I could get the commission. It would be a huge thing. This whole thing. So they're expecting this class 5 package to come through the money, which at the time, I think it was like 20 grand or something like that. It was something 15 grand or something ridiculous for that whole thing. And so then I go across the street. My mom was at an apartment across the street at Celebrity Center. And I'm like, hey, Mom, so you're going to come over and do this thing? And she's like, oh, I already bought the BC. And I was like, I'm sorry, what happened? Who talked to you? How did they get here? Why? Now, the real panic wasn't like we had a fight about that, because I was upset, not because you were going to become and we talked it out, not because you were going to become a class 6, right? Which is amazing. But now I was in big trouble. And so I knew I was in big shit. And you basically said, well, if they give you shit, you tell them to come over here and talk to me. And I was like, I'm definitely not doing that. And so you and I talked it out, and you explained to me why it was a better deal for you. And there was nothing I could argue with it against that. So then I go across the street, talk to Dave Pettit, and he reams me out like real bad. And tells me to march back across the street, and like, why didn't I sell her the BC? Because then we still could have gotten, who's this Janet Meitensma? Like all this, like, this is like it was almost declared at that moment, because I didn't get you to purchase things.
I wish you had been. I wish we both had been.
But I know it would have been great. That would have been a way to go out, Mom. Oh, you'd want my money? No. Like,
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not, Mom. It's like, that's, Dave Pettit is a psychopath. Like, I'm fine saying his name and that other name in the same sentence. That man is a true psychopath. And a lot of my PTSI comes from him directly. So yeah, fun. So you start on the briefing course, and you're trucking along. You're doing great on that. Of course, I go to the RPF and I see you around the base.
Well, but here's the thing, because when I signed up for the briefing course, I signed up with Ruthie, and Janet told me that her thing was that she was going to get. Oh gosh. I had to buy the lectures from her.
From Janet. See, and I tried to get you to buy the lectures from me, and then that was a whole other thing, because
and that's when I had to go see Dave Pettit, and he like started waving his arms around, and how it was all
how crazy was he?
And I got mad at him.
Yeah, you did.
For blaming you. And I said, you know what? This has nothing to do with Nora. leave her out of this. And then he started like, threatening me and shit. And I just said, hey, you know what? I'm not on lines here. I don't really know you. I don't have to take your crap. And he really lost his mind, and I
Yeah.
left.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
And
after
I
you
was
left,
very
he
upset
he
because he
lost
was
his mind
threatening
on
me
me
and you,
for
mainly
many
because he was
weeks.
threatening you.
Oh yeah, he never stopped threatening me. I just basically got told that if I told you anything that both of us would be declared. So I didn't.
You
Because
know what? I would have been declared way earlier if it was that easy to get declared.
well, Mom, you are legendary. You knew that already in the Scientology circles for
No.
speaking your mind. What
Oh, yes.
remember when you and Margot showed up during the LA riots and they were like, "Oh God, it's Kathy. Please just let her
No,
say
no, no.
whatever."
That was a former senior of mine.
Yeah.
Because we were told women
Was
have to
it
be over on
Schwartz?
the
Was it
other
Louis?
side. No, it wasn't Lewis.
Oh, it was
No, it was
Cal.
his brother, Fred.
Oh, Fred Schwartz. Yeah.
But what was funny was I didn't see Fred. We were so packed into the lobby of ASHO that we were like really sardines. And then they're saying, oh, women have to go, on the other side of the room. To get over there, we'd have to crawl over people. So I just said, no. And Margot said nothing, of course, because that's Margot's way. She said,
She's Switzerland.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so anyway, somebody was like, making an issue. And I said, I'm not going over there. This is America. I can stand wherever I want, and I want to stand here, and that's it. I didn't want to get into it. And then I hear Fred, oh no. He says, oh no. Just let her be there. Because he knows me and he didn't want to hear
It's like,
any
don't
more of my
bother.
guff. So
But you guys have to understand, my mom and her best friend, Margot, decided to drive from Northern California to Southern California. Now, this is before cell phones, guys. We did not have cell phone in the car. My mom did not have a pager. Okay. And they did not turn on the radio during this, like,
no,
multiple
because we
hours.
were talking.
They were talking
for 7 hours.
for 7 hours. They arrive in Los Angeles and it's amazingly quiet and empty void of vehicles, which they found very interesting.
Well,
Little
when
did they
we
know,
got off,
the
and we
LA
were driving.
riots were happening because of the Rodney
Yeah.
King verdict. Now, I'm in high school,
You didn't
and
know.
a group of us were told in high school, if the verdict went one way, there was a group of students who were planning on marching and going across the street to the little deli and like holding up signs and stuff. And we were very rebellious in the 90s. And so, of course, the verdict happened. We were told we would all get suspended, expelled, blah, 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 whatever. So then my first thought wasn't like, oh, I'm going to get expelled. My first thought was like, oh my God, my mom is about to be in LA, y'all, and I have no way to reach her. So she's driving through Los Angeles. Somebody comes up. I remember you told me like somebody was approaching the car. So Margaret just like went through a red light and then the cop pulled you over and was like, what are you two doing here?
That's when we left AOLA.
Oh, right. But you guys just rolled up to AO. There's parking. You guys like, wow, there's parking. Look at this.
Well, you could park on the street in those days. There was no,
Yes.
there were no
That's
parking
when it was
lots.
Berendo, guys, not L. Ron Tubtard way.
You don't have to do that.
I know, but I don't like him.
But when we got to AO, the doors were closed.
Right, which was weird.
And so we get there and we couldn't open the door.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to knock on the door, which was weird. We were looking at each other like, what the hell? So then somebody comes and the reg says, what are you doing here? And I
which
went,
is never
what
a
do you
question
mean, what are we doing
Scientologists
here?
get.
Isn't this AOLA? Don't you want us 24 hours a day to come in here? She says, get in here. So we went in. And that was when Cal Cole was the CO there.
Yeah.
My buddy Cal. So anyway, he was very nice. And he's the one who said finally that we could leave and go to our hotel. But that was way late. That was after midnight.
No, I know. And thank God you guys were staying in Glendale and not in LA proper. So
yeah, we were in Glendale.
No, and then we finally got a call from you guys around midnight and we were like, where have you been? Yeah, that was a very stressful day for me. So then, okay, so that happened. That was a fun story, Mom. Fun. And these are the fun things that just happen to you when you're a Scientologist, guys. Just fun. So then you're on your BC. At what point and how did you become involved with Narconon?
Well, I wanted to become involved with Narconon. When I heard about it, and I think it was 70, was it 71 or 70? In 71, or it was 71 or 72. I think it was 72. Anyway, that was when a Narconon was going to open in Berkeley. It didn't last. I mean, they opened, but it just sort of fell apart. And because I went to the grand opening, that's how I know that they opened it. And I was so mad because, then I was a staff member at the org. There was no way they were going to let me go and work at Narconon.
Now, let's just rewind here. Why would you be interested in working in Narconon? What in your life drew you to that?
Because prior to Scientology, I was a drug addict. I know, it's shocking.
Shocking,
But
Mom. I'm shocked.
Shock. And I was a heroin addict. I used drugs, let's see, from, I think I started using heroin in 1967, July of 1967. And on New Year's Eve 1970, or New Year's Eve 1969, I announced to the members of my commune that I was never shooting drugs again.
My mom was living in the Haight-Ashbury, guys, in San Francisco at the time in a commune.
My commune was not in the Haight.
Oh, this is after you moved out of the Haight?
I'd been long out of the Haight. I moved out of the Haight in 1967 when I went to New York and became a drug addict.
In your car that you flew off the cliff in.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about all that. Anyway,
it's still my favorite story of yours, Mom. Of your just like, you're going to die. Just really quickly, my mom drove from Texas to New York in a Volkswagen Beetle. And she did this cross-country trip by herself in 1967.
I did not do it by myself.
Who was in the car with you?
Someone else.
Oh. Guys, my mom was a catch. You should have seen the pictures of her and her cut-off shorts.
Okay,
and her
Nora.
Dyed yellow hair. Fantastic.
I didn't have yellow hair then.
Not then? That was later. Okay. No. But at one point, she thought she was going over a cliff, Mom, and she was going to die. And what did you say? What was your reaction to death, Mom?
I said, whee! When we actually flew over.
And it was just a ditch. She was okay.
It was a trench. It was a deep ditch. I'll tell you that.
But she made it to New York. The car was done after that. And then she came back home.
Yeah, the car got towed away in New York City. You get too many tickets, they tow your car away.
Yeah.
So
it's probably there still in the impound, Mom, waiting for you to pick it up.
It might be, that was a long time ago.
They probably auctioned it off forever ago.
I'm sure they got rid of it. But so
what prompted you to announce to your commune that you were no longer taking drugs?
Because I made a New Year's Eve resolution. I just decided I didn't want to take drugs anymore. I really did not want to do it. And now there were 2 drug dealers who lived in my commune. And so they kind of laughed, like, ha ha.
Oh, we'll see you next week.
Now, I didn't say I wasn't going to take any drugs. I said I wasn't going to shoot any drugs.
Right. Very specific, Mom.
That was very specific, yes.
Were you still smoking pot after that, or did you just...
Oh, yeah. I kept smoking marijuana. That was about it. And I probably took acid or something, But that's not the same thing.
So because, Mom, I was terrified of drugs my whole life because you would tell me these stories of like all these crazy things that would happen to me if I did said drug, which was helpful. But like, I don't have any lived experience on the difference between how heroin affects you, as an example, versus like taking LSD. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Well, they're nothing alike. I mean, heroin is obviously it's a narcotic, and it's a downer. Let's just and LSD is a psychotropic drug. which affects your brain. And it doesn't really affect the rest of your body the same way like that heroin would. And it's very cerebral as a thing. Though you do feel things differently, your attitude changes, but what's mainly happening is your perception is completely different
of what's existing around you and how you see things.
What's
and
in
stuff.
your environment,
Okay.
and what's in your head.
But heroin affects like how your body feels and things like that.
Yes.
Like it totally like to like every portion of your body. Okay, so it's like a sedative type reation, but like
it is
way
a sedative.
More. Oh, okay.
Heroin is a sedative. It's comes from the same base material as morphine, but it's stronger than morphine, theoretically.
Okay.
I don't know if that's
right. It comes
true
from
now.
poppies.
I don't know anything, about what's going on in the last since I stopped taking drugs.
You're not in the heroin, market right now.
I'm not in the know. Let's
you're not
put
in
it
the
that
know.
way.
Okay. Well, let me say. Okay, so you made this New Year's resolution, and then when did you find out about Scientology? Was it before the New Year's resolution or after?
It was after.
It was after. That's when Berman introduced you with the Dianetics book he told you couldn't have.
Right. So I took it. Because he was reading 3 books. It's like, excuse me, you're reading 3 books. You can suffer with 2.
That's how my mom got into Scientology. Her best friend's reading 3 books at once, and she said, "I want to read that one." He said, "No, you don't." And she said, "Yes, fuck off." And she took it. Okay, like.
No, I didn't say fuck off. I just said I'm taking it.
You just said I'm taking it. Right. Okay, so is I
did give it back when I was done, by the way.
And we do. I do want to acknowledge somebody in the chat, Mini Minion 7514. They mentioned earlier that they've been 10 years clean from heroin, and like you, got themselves off of that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that out loud. That is,
that's great.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Congrats on 10 years sober. And that is, that's not an easy feat. Not everybody can do that. But there you go. There's another person like you, Mom, that was like, I'm done, and did it on their own, So was that what drew you? Like when you joined staff, you were already working for Scientology in the early 70s. And then this Narconon thing comes in the scene. And what were your thoughts at the time about Narconon? Like, in the 70s?
Well, my thoughts were, oh, these are my people, and so I wanted to participate in what they were doing. I wanted to help other people who wanted to get off drugs.
And what was Scientology's perception and how they spoke about drug addicts?
At that time, it was sort of like, that this was a waste of time because there was no point in helping drug addicts when we were trying to clear the planet. So it was like it was like off purpose. That's why I knew that they were never going to let me, transfer or whatever. It was just I didn't even ask because I knew I'd just be laughed at.
Yeah, and then later, as Scientology progressed, and like when you and I got back on course in the late 80s and the 90s, and then when you were on course, what was the perception then of people doing the Narconon program or just drug addicts in general?
Well, the perception always was that drug addicts were, that there was something fundamentally wrong with them, that they were degraded beings, blah, blah. And I never agreed with that because, see, this was the real reason my underlying reason for wanting to go and work in Narconon, because my experience taking drugs was I met a lot of people in various shooting galleries and places where, you get drugs illicitly. And some of them were great people, fascinating people.
Right.
And it was just, to me, it was like, okay, well, why is someone taking drugs? Well, everyone has a different reason, and whatever their reason is why they're doing it. And however long they're going to do it is also under their control.
Right.
For the most part. I'm not talking about people that, are trafficked and they're drugged and they're,
right.
all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who personally choose to take drugs and do. And
that was my experience when like friends of mine in high school and things like that fell into drugs, it was always for like never the same exact reason. It was always, you know, something, you know, obviously going on with their life and their lived experience that, you know, caused them to try to get rid of that pain that wouldn't, you know, go away for them, kind of a situation.
That's right.
You know. And so did you get recruited to come work for Narconon while you were on the briefing course, or did you seek them out?
No. What happened was this guy that I was on the briefing course with mentioned that he had been over to Narconon International.
Mm.
And he said, you know, he had a really good talk with someone there. And he said, you know, you should probably go over there. They'd love you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, I think, you know, I think you'd really like it. And he talked to Clark Carr.
Mm-hmm. Who I believe is he still the president right now? I think so.
No, Clark died a few years ago.
Clark is dead. Well, R.I.P. to Clark.
Yeah.
Do you know who the president is now? I have no idea.
All I know is that now it's completely, I mean, it's been absorbed into Able.
Yeah.
And
that wasn't the case when you were there.
No.
Right?
Very much no.
Very much no. Okay. So you go over to Narconon and you speak with Clark, and, you know, even though, is he a Giants fan or the other person was a Giants fan? Somebody was also a Giants fan. Or were you the only Giants fan?
I was from San Francisco, Nora, and no one else was.
Right. That was a little bit of a thing, though, that you were a Giants fan.
Yeah.
They almost didn't take you.
When I was trying to get people to vote correctly on Proposition 8, and I got, you know.
You got in trouble for that, Mom. Be honest. You got in trouble.
No, I didn't get in trouble. Here's what happened. People disagreed with me.
Uh-huh.
And that was fine. But I was trying, I mean, my question was, okay, so you know, and they're trying to tell me that technically, you know, what's wrong with people that are gay, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hang on. You want to tell tech to me? I said, according to, you know, the materials, the thing that's wrong is theoretically they're 1-1. So no matter what, it's just this person is 1-1, statically 1-1. Well, and why? What are they doing? So they're promiscuous. Oh, and no one, you mean
no straights are promiscuous ever.
Okay, good. And then the other one, I said, but you know, gay people want to be able to get married. They want to have families. And no one would even engage with that idea. They were like, they just la 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 like this, you know. They didn't do that, but that was the upshot of the
I would have loved to hear that Clark Carr was like, blah, 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 blah.
No, Clark wasn't even involved in this. He wasn't there. He was on he was out of town. And so finally we were going to have a staff meeting. And so Phil Hart came in, and, you know, he saw this, you know, kerfuffle, people being upset. And I wasn't upset, but a couple of people were upset with me. And,
of course.
Yeah, lucky me. And Phil says, what's going on? And somebody told him, and he goes, she's from San Francisco.
Of course she likes the gays. Like, here's the situation, guys. If you're not from California and you didn't hear about Prop 8 back in the early 2000s, Proposition 8 was a proposition put forth to the California State Assembly to basically outlaw gay marriage, to strike down what the Supreme Court in California had put forth as legalizing gay marriage. And it was put up to strike it down. And Scientology supported that measure everywhere. They were donating to campaigns to get it passed. And that's, I mean, you know, that was, you know, a big deal that you even said anything against that at all. And the fact that, you know, somebody in there was like, oh, she's from San Francisco, and that was just laughed off in Narconon. That would not have been the case had you been on staff or working for, like, let's say, LA Org.
Let me just say, Nora, the reason I was working at Narconon is because Narconon was like Scientology in the 70s. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could be yourself, and you didn't have to be afraid that, you know, somebody was writing fucking KR on you every 2 seconds when you were just being honest about something. So, you know, and I had respect for other people and their opinions, but when they were just flat out wrong or just knee jerk saying something. It's like, I'm
Right.
sorry, I'm going to challenge that.
But
You
do you
know?
now let's talk about that for a brief second here. So when you got in the 70s, the vibe, right? The vibe in the org and the vibe of Scientology at the time was very much like a reflection of the times. Like it was like, we're saving mankind. We're here to help everybody. We love everybody. We want everybody to succeed. Like, would you agree that was like the vibe? And you guys were like, cool beans. Like we're a part of something that's like, we feel like is rad sauce. We're having a good time together. You know, we're hanging out after, we're having parties. We're, you know, yucking it up.
We did. We had great parties.
And then, you know, Ron kicks the bucket and the Sea Org takes over everything. The Guardian's office goes kaput.
Well, before
office
Ron
kaput,
kicked the bucket,
and then Ron kicks the bucket and the Sea Org takes over everything. And then when Miscavige took over officially, that's when like everything sort of flipped on its head and it stopped being that what you had experienced.
Well,
during
it
the
actually
70s.
stopped being fun long before that. It stopped being fun when I was in the GO.
Okay.
Because certain policies, I can't remember. It was just like, you know that scene in Star Wars where they're in the
trash compactor.
Yeah. That all the policies were like that. It was like any discretion that you had on your post or in life as a Scientologist. And I was like, you know what? This is not fun anymore. This is not what I signed up for. And, you know, we were all supposed to be just doing, I don't know, doing stuff in a way that to me wasn't humane. Let's put it that way. It just wasn't humane. And I didn't want to be part of it. And I wanted to have another baby. I knew I wanted to have 2 kids. I wouldn't just have one. And so
I wasn't
was
good
like,
enough for you, Mom. No, I'm just kidding.
You were good enough for me, honey. You were definitely, you were the bomb diggity.
Thank you.
I just wanted you to have a sibling. That's all.
No, I appreciate that. We had fun. We had fun together when we were wee babies. I only tried to kill her like 3 times, you know, the stairs and other things, you know, but that's normal toddler stuff. I thought I was just bringing her upstairs to play with me and I wasn't strong enough to bring the whole thing upstairs. I just, you know, I overestimated my capacity for towing my gigantic sister up the stairs.
Who weighed almost the same as you.
I know.
At that point.
She was enormous.
Yeah.
I was 3.5 years older than her, and she looked like a linebacker, you guys. I mean, like she was a big baby.
She was a large baby, and she, you know, and she's taller than both of us now. So
yeah. She took all of the nutrients. She took them all.
Well, she was a 10-month baby. You don't hear about that anymore. Nobody has 10-month babies anymore.
No, they don't allow that. They don't allow that. All right. So then let's circle back to Narconon. We're going to get off on too many tangents here. So you join up with Narconon. Now, to be clear, guys, I want to be clear here. My mom had already paid for this briefing course. And then
I was on the briefing course.
That's what I'm saying. It was paid in full. And then they decided they wanted you to be a class 8. Who paid for that, Mom?
I paid for it, but hang on. I wanted to be a class 8.
Correct.
And I paid for the course. And well, Harry paid for the course. Let's get real.
R.I.P. to my pops, Harry Thomas. Love you.
Yeah. Anyway,
who, by the way, was never a Scientologist, guys. My stepfather, who my mom was married to for 33 years.
35 years.
35 years, please. I stand corrected. For 35 years. But he supported what both of us did in Scientology and took me in, no questions asked, the day I arrived, when I was unceremoniously dropped off in the driveway with a box of things. He was like, okay.
Well, he knew how much I wanted you in the house. If he'd have told you to get lost, I would have killed him.
No, he was just like, oh, well, are you hungry? Can I fix you something to eat? Which is like Harry's number one question when anybody came to our house. What can I get you to eat? You need something to drink?
That's right. That's Harry.
Yeah, no, always. You know, so you paid for your own class 8 course as well, and the internship.
Right.
And
right.
And then you were like, you know, you got the job of what's called, and I'm just explaining this to everybody, I know you know what your job was, the senior case supervisor of Narconon International, which means that you were in charge, and correct me if I'm wrong if I say this wrong, that you were in charge of the technical aspect of the program from start to finish at every Narconon around the world.
You would think so.
But that's what the title means, right?
It means you're the last word within the Scientology, the
right.
Narconon network.
And so no, that doesn't mean, guys, that my mom knew everything that was happening in every center around the world. Absolutely the opposite. Because
well, first of all, it only has to do with technical matters, like through folders.
Correct.
And as you know, Nora, when there's a folder involved, you don't discuss the folder.
Now, you are one of the few CSs, Mom, case supervisors, that I can tell you with 100% certainty never discussed people's cases, the things that were going on, the things that came up in their sessions, or on the program with anyone besides the technical terminal who needed that information.
Correct.
Right. So if you got sent a folder from Narconon Arrowhead, as an example, that's in Oklahoma, and you were looking through it because this person wasn't doing well. Let's say they were not doing well up here if they weren't progressing. So you had to, like, you know, look over the folder to see where the errors were, to find out what was going on, and then write a program so that person could start doing better. You didn't sit down with any of your friends in the office and be like, oh my God, this lady in Oklahoma, she is wilding out there. Like, whoo, no wonder she's not doing good. She did so much drugs. Like, that never came out of your mouth, ever.
Absolutely not. No.
But other CSs, Mom, I know this is a shock to you, never held that confidentiality in the same regard, you know, where it's like when I arrived at the RPF, I've told that story many times. Nobody should have known why I was there, because technically that was all in my PC folder. And that was between me and my auditor,
right,
my SEC checker. And then the only other people who should have read it would have been the RPFIC, because he is privy to that information. But not only did everyone on the RPF know, everyone on the PAC base knew why I was there.
Well, the other thing, Nora, is here's the loophole to that for a lot of things. Your situation, of course, was also reported to HCO.
What? Yes.
And those people have the biggest mouths on the face of the earth.
This is very true. This is very true.
And so that's where the rumors come from. They don't really come out of the CS office. Now, that does not mean that certain CSs don't say things they shouldn't say. That does not mean that. Because I've heard other CSs say things that I found to be not cool.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. But let me ask you a question. So as the senior CS, as an example, if you didn't, and you spend a lot of time.
And I'm talking about CSs in the church. I'm not talking about CSs
not in Narconon, in the church proper. But let me say this. You spend a lot of time traveling to what I used to jokingly call your Bermuda Triangle, which was, of course, Arrowhead, Trois-Rivières, and Michigan. And you would just like, it was like a never-ending story, guys, between these three places. So she wasn't even going to every single Narconon on the planet.
You're leaving out. I also went to the Santa Cruz guys.
Oh, right. The
who also
Wilsonville
had
guys.
a place in Lake Tahoe. So it was those four, but it was those three primarily.
It just always there was once she would fix up La Trois-Rivières, which by the way is closed, Trois-Rivières. That because they've been kicked out of Canada completely.
It was closed one time while I was there.
Yeah, but it's permanently closed now.
Oh, it was permanently. Oh, I was there when they closed, when the government closed it.
Yeah, Canada has kicked them out. Yeah,
that was years ago now.
Yeah, no, that's forever ago. But yeah, you would just go there, and then you went to Nepal to open up the Nepal Center.
Well, they already had a center. I was there to inspect the center and to upgrade their tech.
Okay. And then you almost died, and I was very upset.
I didn't almost die, Nora.
You did. Okay, guys, if you go to Nepal, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. My mom was in Kathmandu.
Don't drink the water.
Okay, do not drink their water. Okay, it's worse than Mexico. So somebody brings my mom a basket of food and drink that is supposedly sealed water. It was not. And she got very ill and had to go to a hospital in Kathmandu.
I didn't go to a hospital. There are no hospitals.
There's a clinic wherever, the drugstore.
I went to see a doctor. He took my blood pressure and he prescribed. I didn't.
The guy down the road who had a blood pressure cuff. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, no, he was a doctor. Whatever passes for a doctor in Kathmandu. Anyway, so. And I went to get an antibiotic, and you just buy that on the street at a vendor. A vendor.
And so this antibiotic, guys, that she took, my mom had never heard of. It's probably something that like got airdropped from World War II.
It's not legal in the United States. Yeah. I think I took 1 or 2 doses, and then I read, I looked at the person who also was having the same problem as I was, because it happened to both of us. He looked it up. And he said, okay, I'm not taking this antibiotic. And I'd already
the FDA had banned it in the United States.
No, it's not allowed in the United States. So, and I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, but you know what? It worked, because in 2 days I was fine.
Yeah.
But I only took 1 or 2 doses. As soon as I heard that, I was like, no, I'm done. I'm not taking it anymore.
Somebody wants to know, did you say we when you got really sick?
What?
They want to, someone in the chat wants to know, did you say we?
No.
She was really, guys, I'm not joking. She tries to play it off like it was nothing. She literally almost died.
I was in bed for like 2 or 3 days. I couldn't get up.
Vomiting.
Wasn't vomiting.
It was vomiting out of your butt. It was
Nora.
very bad. That was the nicest way I could put that, Mom.
Thank you, dear.
I mean,
I was
really
unwell.
Bad, guys. It was really bad. It made Montezuma's Revenge look like kindergarten. Just don't do that. Don't drink the water there. So you spent most of your time in the Bermuda Triangle of those places, but as
I went to the UK many times.
Right.
Nora.
You went to the UK, yes, a couple times, yeah.
Well, I was there all told in 5 years of being, at the Narconon International. I was in the UK, if you put all the times together, for more than a year.
I know, and you almost missed the birth of your first grandchild.
No, I pushed it, and I wasn't the one pushing it. A certain party did not think.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, she'll have another kid. Just come back for that one." Like,
yeah, I was leaving.
No, you got on the plane.
I got on the
plane.
Home.
You were there. You were there with me for the 54 hours of labor, and I thank you for that.
No,
that was bad. Don't do that either, guys.
Yeah, you should have had the epidural at the beginning, when the woman said to you, your doctor said to you, I think it would be better for you, and you're like, no, I don't want.
I'm doing natural.
Because I did it. I never told you that you had to do that.
I know. I remember what you said to me when I finally asked for it. I said, Mom, I think I'm going to die. And you're like, they were just here. You could have the thing. They've been offering it every half an hour.
Yeah. So I said something just like that. Yeah. But
poor you and Cameron having to push on my back every contraction. And I'm just, it was awful. Don't do that, guys. Listen to your body when you're having labor. It's going to tell you what it can and can't do. That's my word of advice to everybody having birth.
Your body will tell you.
Your body's going to tell you. Your body's going to tell you. Okay. So what I want people to understand out of this conversation, other than we are hilarious together and we should take this act on the road, about you don't want to go on a world tour with me, Mom, where we just joke about our life? No? No, that's not your jam? Okay. So what I want to say is there were a lot of things that happened, very controversial. People died, things like that. As an example, when a tragedy occurred at a Narconon, as the senior case supervisor, what were you even told about that situation? Because you're in Los Angeles at the headquarters. How did you find out about these things? What were you told?
Well, I looked at what was in the folder,
Mhm.
but the folder didn't come to me in LA. I went there.
Right.
And I looked and saw what happened, and I saw the reports that were in the folder. So I know what happened. And of course, it's not exactly the way it was told, in the news, etc.
Mhm.
Um, one of the deaths, which was really, to me, completely the fault of the hospital, was this woman was in the hospital, and I forget, she didn't have, I don't know if it was an insurance thing, or they didn't think it was that big a deal. I don't know. But anyway, they sent her, they discharged her because they needed the bed for someone who was really sick. And yeah. And well, you realize you're in McAllister, Oklahoma. Okay.
Right.
It's not a big place.
No.
It's
They
not
probably have like 8
Tulsa.
beds or something there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very
So
small.
you have to get your mind like, okay, because I'm not trying to trash this hospital. I'm just saying they determined that all she needed to do was rest, and that she could do that at Narconon. And so they sent her back to Narconon, and she died in the middle of the night
Mm.
because she didn't just need to rest. And so that was one of them. Other people who died there, I'm not going to go into all of them because I can't, I don't have all the facts. I don't want to start
Right. No.
saying facts.
But what I'm trying to understand is like, so you would go to and you weren't there for every single person who passed
No,
away.
no.
But when it did happen on your, quote unquote watch, you would travel to the center to examine the person's folder, which contained all of the information about what they were on,
Right.
where they were at in
It
the
was their
program.
full and complete folder.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would look at that to determine when you were looking at that, what were you trying to find out? Were you trying to find out what went wrong in the program, or like what was your thought process on looking through the folders?
I was trying to find out first just what happened,
Mhm.
like exactly what happened in the sequence that it happened in. Like, what could have been done to make this not happen? Like, was everything done that should have been done? Was something not done? Was it done but got undermined somehow? What happened?
Mhm.
And and it wasn't just that. It was like, it was things in the UK that, I mean, I don't pick on Arrowhead because that's what we know about. It would have been in the
Yeah.
newspapers here. I have strong feelings about one of the deaths there, and I always
In the
felt that
UK or Arrowhead?
Arrowhead,
Mm.
because I just felt that the police didn't investigate properly, and I I don't think it was I don't think it was self-inflicted what happened to this guy. That's all I'm going
Mm.
to say, because it's my feeling. I don't have, because nobody knows exactly what happened to him.
No, but but is that based on like also what you saw in the folder? Like it didn't add up to you what you were being told, essentially?
Things, yeah, and also reports that I saw from, it was just reports in the folder, not all technical stuff, like reports that I saw from ethics, and
Mm-hmm.
and this person's roommate was behaving suspiciously
Mm.
prior to his body being found.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like that should have been investigated. I wanted it to be investigated. And the police came in, looked around a little bit, and they said, no, it's nothing.
Were
I
the
don't think
police
so.
influenced the same way, like in Arrowhead and things like that, as they are in Los Angeles due to like Scientology's influence? Do you think?
The police were not unfriendly to Narconon,
Mm-hmm.
but they just thought it was a nothing burger. They just thought,
Also, it's just a drug addict who died, so who cares?
It's a drug addict, and he died of an overdose. What, their feeling was, how did he get they were more interested in who did he get the drugs from,
right?
Than
well, then they have a case.
And I don't know
what I mean? Like, they have something to do. If it's just somebody who OD'd, then whatever. They're they
right.
Don't get to...
And there was no way. I don't know that there was any information on like some actual evidence showing where the drug came from.
Right. Yeah, I don't. And I remember when these things would happen, just to like give everybody like a little peek behind the scenes. This was devastating to you. This was not
oh God, it was like, extremely
guys,
upsetting.
I had to talk to the reason why I was late is I was talking to my mom about coming on live, which she was hesitant to do, not because obviously this isn't a gotcha moment, for my mom, but because of her personal history of being a drug addict and wanting to help her people, as she put it, eloquently in the stream. The fact that Narconon became what it became later, and knowing what you know now, Mom, about the Purif and other things, it's an incredibly sensitive topic for you because, you went into it completely like, I'm going to get to help. Like, I remember having the conversation with you, like, I'm going to get to help people like where I didn't have that help. Like, I understand these guys because I was them. I was this drug addict, and I don't look at them like pieces of shit like everybody else does. I look at them like human beings, and I
didn't say like everybody else does, but within
like the Sea Org did and Scientology did.
Yeah.
You didn't share that belief because, like, I tell people, if you look at the bridge to total freedom, there's like, it starts at the Purif and goes up to OT 15, which doesn't exist. It's a lie, but that's a whole other story. And then below that, you have the front groups, and Narconon is way down there, like below Wise, below other things, because that's how disgust people feel about people who take drugs in Scientology. Like, it's like masturbation, drugs, and then like maybe financial crimes are like the top 3 things that Scientologists have a huge problem with. Like just to throw a name out there that everybody knows, Danny Masterson, okay, who's in jail now for 30 years to life, for all the awful crimes that he was proven guilty of in a court of law, not even all the crimes he actually committed, okay? Scientologists would tell me if I'm wrong, they would forgive him in a heartbeat if he got out. But if they found out that while in jail, he did drugs, he's out. Am I wrong, or am I exaggerating, Mom?
Well, they would, I don't think people would care what he did while he was in, but if he was on drugs after he got out of jail, if he were still on drugs, then he would be looked down on.
Yeah.
But I think he's, let's say the church isn't looking down on him for whatever reason.
No.
They're psychosis.
Absolutely not. They hate me more than they hate Danny Masterson.
Well, why would they hate Danny Masterson? He's a man.
Oh, Mom, controversial statements. Keep going.
It's just,
tell me more.
Let's face it, Nora. Look at guys, pedophiles in Scientology.
Yeah.
It's their victim's fault.
Right.
Really, a child. And the child came on to you by doing what?
Existing, Mom.
Watching TV. I mean, give me a break. It's stupid. And I just want to say, when I used to do, and let's say in the 70s, when I was doing internal security in San Francisco, I had a guy an auditor, who, I don't know, I never thought of it at that time. I didn't think that he seduced her, but he probably did. Seduced a pre-clear of his who was underage. And my handling of that was to expel him.
Boom.
Because that's the only way my view, my job.
Did you get pushback on that, Mom? Did you get pushback on expelling him?
This is my point.
Okay.
This is my point. What I did was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, There was no harassment of this girl. There was no accusations made about her.
Mm-hmm.
But now, and I don't know when this happened.
It's when Miss Gavage took over, Mom.
He's so crazy. But that's why when I heard that this stuff was going on, blaming the victim, I thought, when the hell did that happen? This is crazy. This is not how it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that for a fact. So that was not part of Scientology in the 70s. I'm just going to say that. But what happened at some point?
Well, not the part that you had anything to do with, Mom. Let's put it that way. Let's be very specific. You obviously had a very good sense of right and wrong, and you saw.
But it was when
your
job is. Let me just say this.
Yeah.
People who don't know what the Guardian's office was, they think there's a bunch of criminals. Everything they're doing is bad and wrong.
No, that was just
Not
Daddy.
True. Well, that was your father.
And he wasn't even in the Guardian's office. Anyway, moving on.
And he wasn't in the Guardian's office. That's right.
He was just a hired hand.
Yeah. He wasn't even hired.
Yeah. He was a volunteer.
Nobody paid him.
Yeah.
He wasn't paid.
That's true.
Never got a dime.
He did it for shits and giggles and clout. Anyway, yes, keep going though, Mom.
Well, now you made me lose my train of thought. But my point is that in the Guardian's office, our job was to protect, in this order, Ron, Mary Sue, and the church. That's what it used to say on the org board.
Mm-hmm.
That was our job. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
And, we didn't have a problem with it. I had a problem with certain people being targeted with arbitrariness. Like a friend of mine who was in charge of, he was in Div 2, and he was in charge of the San Francisco Scientology magazine, which of course wouldn't exist today. But he would create this magazine that was sent out into the Bay Area to all the people that were online at San Francisco org. And Bobby was gay. And it wasn't closeted gay. Everyone knew he was gay. They knew he was gay when he got hired. So let's not make an issue. He's gay. Okay. Way better than the guy who was a pedophile who got hired. And even on his sec check, it said, "Are you a pervert?" And he answered the question, yes. And he was still hired. Probably didn't read, but he answered the question, yes. Hello. We hired him too. Anyway, or I wasn't part of the we then.
No, you didn't hire him, Mom, but yeah. The Guardian's office hired him.
No, the org hired him.
Oh, San Francisco org hired him, rather.
Yeah, sorry. San Francisco org. So anyway, too many interruptions. I'm interrupting myself.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's all right. It's not your fault. Anyway, how things were done then were more humane in the 70s. The way people were treated like human beings. They were I spent 2.5 years as a new staff member handing out stuff on the street. I got to be really good at body routing too. I could body route someone without even saying a word to them. I just put my arm in their arm and just bring them up to the film.
That was just how they did it in the 70s, guys. You just walked arm in arm around San Francisco and be like, "Come with me."
I didn't even, the last guy that I did that with, I didn't even say, "Come with me." I said nothing to him. And he just came, and I sit down, there's going to be a film. Thanks. And he watched the film. That was it. So it's just a matter of, you just treat people like human beings because that's who they are. That's what they are. It's that simple.
Yeah. No.
And the church doesn't do that anymore.
No. And I think that's, we've had, you and I have had this discussion over the last decade many times about the difference between when you got involved in Scientology in the 70s and when I became immersed in it in the late 80s and 90s, and then, of course, joined the Sea Org in 1995. It was two completely different kettles of fish. It was just like
Totally different. Yeah.
totally different places and etc. I mean, so you went into Narconon, again, very Pollyanna, very much like, well, Narconon is totally separate and everything else. Now, at that time, when you were the senior CS and working for Narconon, you, of course, also believed in all the technology, correct?
Yes.
Of Scientology. So you believed that people doing, for example, the purification rundown, which you and I did it, I think 3 times. You did it at least twice?
Yeah, did it twice.
Okay. That was, in fact, people were sweating out these toxins and taking,
Yeah,
niacin.
I believe that.
Okay. What do you believe, just to clarify, what do you believe now about the Purif?
Well, I believe that a person is taking too much niacin. That's number one. And more vitamins than any human being needs to take.
Yes.
As you progress in thing. I think that the Purif, the idea of purifying yourself, there's nothing wrong with that idea, that concept of let's get the crap out,
Right.
Okay, that's a good idea.
I mean, that goes back to like ancient times, people
Right.
trying to find holy bodies of water. Even baptism itself, right, is a type of purification, especially when somebody is like converts to something later and they
Sure.
become baptized and things like that. So I think that concept of purifying yourself in some way, that's very ancient. That's very human in general.
Yeah. Well, if I were, going to use what's useful of Narconon today, the first thing I would do is like, what is useful is number one, I wouldn't let anyone on the program who didn't really want to stop taking drugs. That would be number one. And the problem is that I had while I was the senior CS, the biggest problem I had was, well, we reg this guy and he doesn't fully, but we already got the money. We already got the money. This reminds me of when I worked for Bob Marshall and he wanted to do a job for some guy that I thought was a freaking perv. And I said, I'm not doing it.
Bob Marshall, by the way,
report.
guys, was a private investigator that my mom worked for many years. And then my father later became a private investigator. I was raised by 2 private investigators, essentially, guys. And everybody wonders why I am so suspicious of everything.
Well, Nora, some of that's on you. But
what?
That's another.
No.
Yeah, you're you, honey. You can't totally blame anyone else but yourself.
What? Mom, it's all about, that's
Just
all I talk about in therapy is you.
Right. Well,
actually,
when you're ready to talk about yourself, you might actually make some wonderful progress.
Well, Mom, I feel attacked.
Do you? Come on.
No.
Don't be silly.
No, I talk about myself only because I'm an egotistical maniac, as we know.
Well, I don't think that's totally true.
What was my nickname? What was my nickname on the high school basketball team, Mom?
I don't know. What was it?
It was ego.
Was it?
That's what my teammates gave me. They're like, this bitch is full of herself.
Well, you were something to deal with in those days.
Yeah. I was full of piss and vinegar in high school, guys. Absolutely.
Yeah. You were a tough little chick there.
I was a tough chick. This is for sure. So, okay, well, so you had this standard this was the standard that you were trying to enforce on the network, that if somebody's walking into the Narconon program, the first commitment they have to make is, I want to be off. I don't want to do drugs anymore.
Right. And the thing is that anybody who's ever taken drugs who had to get off of them. I mean, some people have taken drugs, they didn't become addicted, whatever, they just forced around. I'm talking about people who were addicted and had to take steps to be unaddicted. You know perfectly well that if that's not what you want to do, it's not happening.
Correct.
We all know it. And that's true of any rehab. If somebody's not there because they want to be there, they're wasting everybody's time.
Well, they're wasting their time. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to do anything for them. I mean,
it's not really.
It's not. I mean, really. Like, you got off drugs because you made the decision Like well, you got off heroin, let's put it that way. And then you got off the rest of things later. But you got off heroin because you were like, I'm not doing any more injectables. That's out for me. I'm out.
Right. I was done.
Because the same way you quit smoking, you were like, well, I'm a non-smoker now. And you just stopped smoking.
Yeah. Well, I asked myself, do I want to, and this is when I was only smoking 2 cigarettes a day, but I was having a hard time breathing.
Yeah.
And because, I have asthma. And so I was just sitting by myself and I thought, do I want to smoke or do I want to breathe? And then I thought, that is the stupidest question I have ever asked myself. Duh, I want to breathe. And that was it. I was done smoking. Because I really had to look at, like, I'm even like making a choice here for myself. Do I want to smoke or do I want to breathe?
Well, and see, so guys, so she was in Narconon, and we'll just get to the end of your Scientological journey here real briefly. But, you tried to help as many people as you could inside Narconon. That was your full dedication to, I remember you telling me once that your overall goal was like that this was your contribution to clearing the planet by helping eradicate it is still a problem in our country. Drug addiction.
It's worse than ever now.
It's worse than ever. Yeah. Drug
but
addiction.
There's a reason, Nora, and I just want to say,
yeah, go for it.
The real reason that I see just is because drugs used to be from natural things, but drug companies can't make money from natural things.
What?
No. So they have to come up with synthetic this and synthetic that. And ever since they started with the benzodiazepines.
They're so yummy, though.
And then the oxycodone, Oxycontin, all that crap, that stuff is worse, much more addictive.
Oh, sure.
Than any natural drug. It just is. So it's really, really, really hard for people to stop taking that crap, even if they want to. Very difficult. And now, it as opposed to when I was taking drugs versus now, people don't just take a drug. They take like a cocktail of things, and so like they're taking benzos, and then they're taking, whatever else they're taking.
Right.
But the worst of all those things, and because they're very difficult to come off of, are benzodiazepines. I mean, if I had to go into a hospital, when I had my hysterectomy, I told the doctor, I don't want morphine. Yeah. I know it's your protocol. I know that. I said, but I want to know, what can I do, because I don't want the morphine. And so she's like, oh. So she said, well, by law, I have to give you a drug.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, I know you do. So I agreed to a shot of something, which I can't remember, but it was much more. Was it Demerol? No, I don't think.
Yeah, that's another story, guys. I love how she's just telling the hysterectomy story. Like, she went in for the hysterectomy and la-di-da, I didn't want drugs. I mean, that's relevant to our thing. But that's another fun story, because my mom didn't want me to worry about it, guys. She didn't want me to worry about it. But here's the difference between my mom and other Scientologists, because between the two of us here on the screen, guys, we could each name at least 50 people that we've known who have passed from terminal cancer and other treatable things because they went to a doctor too late, or they didn't go to the doctor at all.
Or they went to see Scientology doctors.
Like Dr. Minkoff or Dr. Dank or Dr. Shields.
Yeah.
Dr. Shields and Dr. Dank both died of what? Cancer.
Right.
Yeah. And so they would go see Scientology quack doctors who wouldn't give them the correct treatments or protocols and things like that.
Because they were Scientologists first, and doctors second.
And they would report on their patients, by the way. Dr. Minkoff reports on his patients who are Scientologists directly to the church that they go to about all the things that are happening with them. There's no HIPAA protection for not Dr. Dank, Dr. Dank, D-E-N-K, Dank. Yeah, I know it's not a very doctorly name. But yeah, I mean, but see, I was worried at the time that you were going to become a statistic because you were having extreme problems at that time. Which,
yeah, I was. And that's why I needed the hysterectomy.
I know, but at first, when you and I had our first conversation about what was going on with you, right? You said you had been having like a period for a long time. And I was like, how long is a long time? And you
2
said,
weeks.
yeah, you were like,
It
I
was
don't know,
2
like
weeks.
2 weeks, I think. And I was like, 2 weeks, you think? 2 weeks, you think? What? And I was in the Sea Org at the time, guys. So I couldn't like just drive her to an emergency room or something like that. Also, I had broken my ankle at the time. So you were coming to see me more because I had this stupid cast and the broken ankle, and you were giving
I
me
was bringing you the
assists.
CalMag.
You were bringing me CalMag to drink at night and taking me home
Yeah.
because I was on a limited schedule and there was no way for me to get all the way to my birthing building. And so you would come pick me up and drive me to my birthing building. We'd have like this little 20 minutes of time together nightly. And then you told me that you were, having hemorrhaging issues. And I was like, you need to go to the doctor. And then you finally went like a week later.
No,
then,
I went that night, Nora.
did you? Oh,
I
right.
went
Because you
home,
went home.
I
And
went
then you
home and I
started
told
getting
Harry.
pale. And you were like, I think I need to go to the doctor.
No,
and
I
Harry
just
took you
told
to the
Harry,
doctor.
I said, I have to go to the emergency room. You have
Yeah.
to take me. And he said, okay.
Yeah. So he took you to the emergency room. Then they told you you're going to need a hysterectomy. And you weren't convinced at first.
No, they didn't tell me anything. What they did was
The
they
DNC.
took my blood pressure
Uh-huh.
and then they sitting down, and then they took my blood pressure. I was standing up. And the next thing I know, I'm on a table in the emergency because I was bleeding to death.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and then you made my sister promise not to tell me where you were. And you
she
were
didn't
across the
know.
street.
I didn't tell her anything.
No, you did. She did
anything.
know. She did know. She knew where you were when you got the hysterectomy.
No, honey.
No, I know. That
When
was
I
the
got
emergency
this
room you came home.
hysterectomy
I'm
was-
talking about the day you got the hysterectomy. You swore my sister to secrecy. To
No. Nora, you're confusing two different things.
I'm talking about when you actually had the surgery.
This is when I needed to stop bleeding so I
Right.
wouldn't die. And then the hysterectomy, you knew when I was going to get the hysterectomy.
No, I did not. I had to
because
go. No, I did not. You purposely did.
No, Nora.
No.
This is when I spent the night in the hospital, and when I had the DNC to make me stop bleeding.
Oh, is that
and
when I
that's
convinced
they
Sarah? I
found-
went over to LA, Oregon, threatened her until she told me where you were, which was across the street.
She didn't know.
No, she did know.
She was
told me.
living at the house, but
I know.
I didn't
She told me
talk
where you
to
were.
her.
She told me you were across the street. And so I walked in just as you were saying, thank God Nora doesn't know I'm here. She'd be freaking out. And I opened up the curtain.
I know. And then you just came right in. But that's not when I got the hysterectomy, Nora.
Okay. That was, again, my memory and your memory are different, but I trust you. I trust you on that. So, okay. So then that happened. You're still working for, okay. So that's just a whole sidetrack story. So
totally
towards the end of your Narconon career, right? You had come back from England a couple times. You had been in Arrowhead and everywhere else. And then, of course, I ruined everything by starting to speak out and had become public. I stopped speaking out under a pseudonym. I was speaking out under my own name. And then you got a prize from Narconon, which was you were gifted OT5. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I told you under no uncertain terms that was not, it was a fake gift and they were tricking you. And you were like, no. And you went, and I told you exactly what was going to happen.
They didn't give me OT5. They gave me, what do you call it? No. An intensive.
Oh, an intensive. I'm sorry. An intensive at Flag. But then things took a turn because what were they actually trying to convince you to do when you were there?
Well, when I had called my reg and I told her, that you didn't want me to come. But I didn't name you. My daughter doesn't want me to come. She said, oh, that happens all the time. Just come on. No. I shouldn't have gone. But I don't know. Let's say I didn't go. Let's say then I would have been called into AOLA.
Right.
So,
It
anyway.
would have been
But
same shit, different menu. It just would have been different people.
right.
And you would have
Anyway,
had to dealt with Julian Schwartz.
who I did have to deal with anyway,
Did you
Nora.
guys see that reaction? That is the reaction that everyone has who knows Julian Schwartz. He's not a good person. He was not kind to anyone.
Well,
Yeah.
it was not realistic to anyone either.
No.
But anyway, yeah, that just got to be pretty ugly. But I went to Flag. I was a good girl. And then every time I had 3 or 4 different ethics officers, I can't even count now.
Right.
And every time I convinced the ethics officer that I really should go home, he got replaced with a new guy. So then I would, explain and, and give technical reasons why it would work better if I went home.
Yeah.
And then a new guy and a new guy. And finally, I had to finish something that I was told I was going to have a session. I'm like, no, not having a session because I already finished my sec check, which I passed.
You always did, Mom.
Because I told the truth.
Yeah.
So anyway, why lie in a sec check? What a stupid thing. Don't do that. Anyway, so I'm waiting to see the DFP. And I'm waiting for
Director
hours
of processing, guys.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
And so finally I get to go in her office. She actually has a minute for me. So I go in and I said, I really need to go home. And I keep being told I can go home tomorrow, but then I can't go home tomorrow. And I have a new ethics officer and da-da-da-da-da. And she goes, hey, you can leave anytime you want. No one is holding you here. And I went, what? She goes, no, really, it's true. And I said, do you mean I can just get up right now and walk out? She goes, yeah. I said, good, that's what I'm going to do. And I got up and I left. And then I went over and I called you and told you what was happening, and you helped me go off the base.
But
so
let's be real. You called me and you said it was random and you were upset and you said, I think I'm blowing Flag. I said, where are you? And you told me which building. I forget which building were you staying in.
It was very close to the HGC.
Yeah, it wasn't the Osceola. It was a different one.
No, it was smaller. It was the smaller
There's so many hotels they have. It wasn't the Fort Harrison and it wasn't the Osceola. I can't remember which one.
Oh, no. The Fort Harrison would have been, I wouldn't have been able to leave the Fort Harrison the way I left.
No. Oh, no. So you packed your stuff. I told you, don't talk to anybody. There's going to be people waiting for you. You were like, I don't know about that. I'm up here on the 8th floor or whatever. I said, don't talk to anybody. And I had you go to the library, which you were like, why do I have to walk to the library? Why can't the taxis just come here? I have all these bags. I was like, Mom, they're going to turn it away. And when you opened the door, how many Sea Org members were there?
When I opened the door, there were 2 Sea Org members who, by the way, I couldn't get the time of day with, up until this moment.
Prior to that.
Prior, they didn't, and they didn't offer to help me with my bags or anything.
No.
And I just said, hi, I gotta go. And so I went downstairs.
And how many more were there?
Oh, well, when we got outside, as soon as I went outside, there were a few people. It ended up being 6 people walking behind me.
6 people, guys, to try and intimidate and prevent one human from leaving the Scientology base. They didn't know where she was going because she just had bags. She looked like a complete.
One of them was my current ethics officer.
Oh, good.
And
who
the
kept
other
asking
one
to
was
talk to
the ethics,
me.
the ethics officer who told me that I could go home 2 days earlier.
Right. Yeah. And they kept asking to talk to me. I finally talked to them. I just TR3'd them to death and then they hung up on me.
Right.
I just kept telling them, listen, my mom's getting in a taxi. She's going to the airport. She's getting on a plane and then she's going to come home and we're going to have a conversation. And they kept trying to find out why I didn't want you to do OT5, and all this stuff. And I just kept repeating that. No, it doesn't matter.
It's irrelevant.
I just kept repeating that. And they kept asking me all these different questions. And I said, listen, I have 2 RTC passes on TR 0 to 9. I will TR3 you all day. And then I repeated what I said again. And then they hung up. And the next thing I knew, you were calling me back from the taxi.
Because I was in the taxi.
And you said, I'm in the taxi. I'm safe. I told you, don't talk to any sheriff or anybody else if they're there. You got on your plane fine. And then what happened on your layover?
I had a call from, the first thing I did was I called, I Why can't I think of his name? God, that's so weird.
It wasn't Clark.
I called this. No,
right?
no, no. I called the senior CS at Arrowhead, and I just called him and I said, I just want you to know that you probably don't want to be my friend anymore. So, and it's okay. I won't, I won't be upset. And he's like, what is happening? So I told him, and he goes, wow, that's not good.
Because
I said, no,
at Flag, they,
not good.
in no uncertain terms, asked you to disconnect from me and my sister, correct?
They weren't saying it, but unless I agreed to do it, I couldn't have any more auditing. So it's like, then why am I here? It's stupid. I had already passed my sec check, and they weren't going to let me get the auditing. So it's like, why can't I go home?
Yeah, if you're not going to give me the services that are paid for, why am I here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then I talked to him for a while, and then but a short while. Next thing I know, like within 10 minutes or so, I get a call from Yarko, my senior. And he tells me, Phil, who's the ED Narconon, wants me to go back to Flag.
Yeah, get your ass on another plane back to Flag right now.
And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And he said, but I said, I know all the reasons I'm not doing it. What I didn't say was, I'm never going to fucking Flag again as long as I live. I'm never doing it. So, if I'd have said that, they wouldn't even have let me in the building, when I got home.
No.
So anyway, I just said, no, I'm not going to. And then when I went into my office, which normally I had phone calls, I had, all kinds of urgent messages and all this, nothing. I had nothing. No one was calling me. No one was writing to me in any form, not even emailing me. And I thought, wow, quiet time. I can fix this Narconon book. So I edited this Narconon book 4 that I wanted to, edit because it was just so goofy, so that it would make sense. So I finished that, and I took it over to Able.
Right, to get approval.
Yeah. I'm sure they never did it.
No, Mitch Frisker rewrote it, Mom. Remember?
Yeah. So that's why, who knows what they're doing in Narconon.
Who knows? I don't know. I'd have to do an interview with Mitch to find out what he wrote, and they probably rewrote it since he left as well. I mean, he's a declared SP now too, so
Oh, well, then it's been rewritten again.
Yeah, of course. See, even if he wrote something that they liked, guys, it would have to be rewritten because he's an SP now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there is something very weird about Mitch. But I mean, Mitch is like Donald Trump in the sense that he only really cares about himself.
Okay. We're going to
And I hope that doesn't, I don't mean that.
Mitch is probably in the stream I'm watching, and then I'm going to get like 85 comments from him, but that's fine. That's fine.
He can call me. He has my phone number if he doesn't like what I'm saying.
Someone asked in the chat here, what years were you there? So you worked for Narconon Int from 2012?
Okay, I was contracted to Narconon Int from, I worked there from I worked there from January 1st, 2008 to December 31st, 2012. So that's 5 years exactly. Prior to that, 5 years earlier, I signed a contract with Narconon, and I did do a couple things for them while I was training.
Right. But you went to a couple Narconons and stuff, and
yeah, I did
projects, as they call it, projects.
I did projects for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then other thing I want to clear up. You were the senior case supervisor for every Narconon on the planet.
Well,
but comparatively, percentage-wise, your pay versus the senior CS at Arrowhead, what percentage would you say? I want to make this clear, because you got paid like a Sea Org member, essentially.
No, it wasn't that.
It wasn't $50 a week. You made on average like $800 a week, maybe. And the senior CS at Narconon, there's 2 of them. They each
between
made
$650 and $800.
yeah,
take
you'd
home.
make between $650 and $800 a week. And the senior CS at any given Narconon, but especially at Arrowhead, was making at least $1,500 a week.
That was the senior CS when I first became the senior CS.
It's even more now, I'm sure.
But you're never good. No, I'm sure it isn't. Not now. It only went down from those 2.
Well, now they're charging Blue Cross
psychos.
Blue Shield for medical billing.
Oh, Nora, that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, which is also total BS.
I don't even want to get into all that, because that was the stuff that I reported that,
See,
stuff
so
was
guys,
being...
here's my mom in Narconon really trying to help drug addicts. And other people are like, look at all this money we made. And you're writing reports and they're like, Kathy, please leave it alone. Please. We love the money. Shut up. Like, you were already a troublemaker before I, opened my big fat mouth and started speaking out,
well, yeah,
about Scientology.
I didn't think it was okay for people to make money off the backs of families that couldn't afford the price of Narconon, and now they're going to get a predatory loan on top of that, which they can't pay back. And those were people, those were side deals. Those were people like Per Wickstrom. He started that. He's the one who started that, doing that.
I have a commenter who was a Narconon staff member at Arrowhead. I don't know their actual name. I'm not going to shout it out in the chat. But they say senior CS at Narconon Arrowhead made $1,600 a week. Plus we got unit pay as well based on your training. So the $1,600 was base. I don't know. They'll have to tell me. Does it matter to me? What year were you there? I'll wait for their comment to come up. But yeah, so that was how that went when they were there. All right, Mom, I'm going to field these questions. I'm not going to hammer you with all the questions. I will answer as honestly as I can. And then if there's any follow-up, I will ask you and then make a post about it. But I want to say thank you, Mom. I love you.
You're welcome.
I love you so much. I'm so glad you were here to shed light on this. I know I said, I promised you it wasn't going to be long. I lied. It's been an hour and 42 minutes, but this is what happens when we start talking, guys. We have no concept of time. It did not feel like almost 2 hours talking to you. It never does though, Mom. It never does. It never does. And I know it's dinner time for you. You got to go make your dinner. So
yeah, I'm okay.
You never had your cup of tea?
No. So I'll do that now.
I'm sorry. All right. Well, I love you. Thank you so much for being here, Mom. And I will talk to you next time. All right. I'm going to let you go from the chat here. I love you.
I love you too, sweetie.
All right.
Bye.
All right, guys. That was my mom, Kathy Thomas. I love her so much. Let's go to, I have a super sticker. This is very exciting. From Matrix Tech Solutions, lemon character waving goodbye while winking and sending a shooting star. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me get into these questions here, from you guys. And I saw there was a new member who's Mary Hiker just became a new member. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that very much. Let's go to comments here. Tim Mick says, I see where you get your personality. Your mom is just as lovely, as sweet as you are. Well, thank you very much. I think so as well, Tim. It only works if you really want it to. This is true about any drug rehab. I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that. Oh, I knew there was a reason why I can relate with you. Oh, that's to my mom. I'm sure she'll watch this later. Heather Rhodes is in the house. So glad I didn't miss this. I'm glad you were here as well. Ree. Hi, Ree. In 2011, I was supervising a new employee who had done his student placement at Narconon. It took me months to let him understand it was Scientology. Yeah. Yeah. It was not, it wasn't part of it. It wasn't part of it. You weren't, this is for us 80s kids, our 70s, 80s kids. You aren't really siblings until the older ships the younger down the stairs in a laundry basket. If you're being kind, you put a pillow at the bottom of the stairs. Very true. Very true. I was in labor for 46 hours and had an epidural, but Jade naturally at the end. They Yeah. Listen, I had an emergency C-section after 54 hours. I had full Pitocin. I didn't get the epidural until 46 hours into that, guys. Don't do that. Okay. I don't know what that comment meant. Does it matter to me about the death? But I would definitely have you on to talk about that if you want to do that. Also, those shoes are amazeballs. Yes, one of my sisters had these made for me for my birthday. And I put them on once, but as you can see on the bottom of the soles, they have not really touched the ground. I'm going to keep them forever. I love them. It's amazing. A local artist in Austin, Texas, did that for her. Let's see here. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Oh, now what? I appreciate that. You come by your empathy. Honestly, Mom is wonderful. She is wonderful. Oh, you were there from 1998 to 2004. So you were there before my mom was officially there. But yeah, so you guys didn't overlap at that time. You two sound like me and my mom before she passed. It warmed my heart. I'm so glad. Stacy, I'm so glad for that. Let me get to your questions here, because I too have to make dinner. I thought, Moishi says, I thought you can't do Scientology if you did LSD. No, you just can't be in the C organization. You can absolutely be a Scientologist if you've done drugs of any nature, except psych drugs. You cannot be, they won't let you do auditing and things like that. Was there any effort by Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous to avoid confusion with Narconon or any history of interaction? They never crossed over, Cricket, or anything like that. Yeah. How does my mom feel about weed being legalized? She has a mixed bag. We've talked about that once it came through, things like that, because back in her day, when she was smoking weed, it was a different bag of chips. It was much less potent than it is now. And, as we're all seeing scientifically now that weed has been legalized across many states, we're all seeing that, A, it is addictive. B, the long-term effects of daily constant use are much different than what people had predicted. So I think that as time goes on and people can do more studies about the actual long-term effects of perpetual weed use is going to change. It might change that around, because it's not the nothing burger of a drug that people like to make it out to be, especially when it's being used daily in large doses. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's not everybody who's doing that with the legalization of weed. I want to make that clear. I know that. But when people are doing that, when they cannot wake up in the morning without it, when they cannot go to bed without it, that is addiction, 100%. In my personal opinion, you should seek treatment for that. If people need it every once in a while to calm their nerves, or especially cancer patients who have no appetite, 100% I'm for that. And my mom and I talked about that when it wasn't legal. She couldn't understand why people who, especially cancer patients, couldn't have access to that so that they could eat. Did she ever stay in the Hacienda Gardens? No, but I did. I did when I was on training. What does TR3 means? So that's part of the training routines. They are numbered from OTTR 0 all the way up through 9. Okay. And TR3 is where you learn to repeat a command over and over, no matter what is happening. So, yeah. Do I know anything about Newman Addiction Services run by Kansas City Scientologist Bobby and Amy Newman? It probably is. Can you let her in, please, Lan? Your hair looks nice, by the way, bud. Very handsome. You just got a haircut. Look great. Let her in. Help her in. There you go. Yeah, I don't. I'll have to ask her about that. I've never heard of that. But if they are Scientologists, it's most definitely either like some sort of like feeder system into the Narconon, or probably just an offshoot that's not labeled properly, like officially as a Narconon. I will, Stacy. I will send her your comment and tell her you said so, that she is awesome. How old was my mom when she joined Scientology? She was 20. And did she have me while she was in Scientology? Yes. I was born in 1976, and she was working for the Guardian's office then. I was born in Los Angeles at the brand new, yet to be open Cedars-Sinai that is in Beverly Hills. And my mom did Lamaze class at AOLA, what is now the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles, because that was still the Cedars of Lebanon at that time. Guys, that brings us to the end of the questions and comments. I thank you so much for being here for this wonderful discussion with my mom. And what apartment you lived in, B3 and BA? I don't even remember. I was there in 1995 and 1996 on training. So I was wherever all the CC people were. I don't know. I don't even remember. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm just looking through. Oh, question. Oh, we got to that one already. All right, guys. Those shoes are cool. Yeah, they're rad. And they're Vans, guys. So it's like they're even cooler. They're custom Vans just for me. My Wonder Woman Vans. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow with some more amazing deliciousness. I will bring her back on when I can for more stories from all the days of her life. And we'll chit-chat some more. All right? I love you. Be kind to each other if you can. And get out there and enjoy this beautiful fall weather that's starting up wherever you are. I will see you guys on the flippity-dippity. Thank you so much to the mods, to the members, and everybody who tuned in today. Click that link. Find me everywhere. We'll chat. It's fun. Or send me some money. I need it.